Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on research methods, looking at positivism. Positivism is a methodological approach to research in society that was developed, amongst others, by Emil Durkheim. Positivism approaches the study of society in a systematic and scientific way, and the argument of early positivists was that individuals could be studied in a similar way to the natural sciences because behaviours could be observed and recorded in a scientific way. These behaviours, or social facts, could be measured and quantified to allow researchers to study cause and effect relationships between social institutions and individuals in society. By using a scientific approach, sociologists would be able to test theories through repeating research and checking the findings to make sure that they were consistent with sociological theories of behaviour. One of the key ideas of positivism is that society is shaped by social institutions and that these institutions, things like education, family, religion, work, shape the behaviour of individuals. Positivists therefore take a more structural view of society, looking at the bigger picture rather than the interactions between individuals. Positivism is a form of macro-sociology, concerned with the impact of social forces and how these shape individual behaviours. As a consequence, positivists generally look to collect quantitative data, that is data in numerical form, because they see it as being more objective and scientific, rather than relying upon a researcher's interpretation of events. By doing so, they believe that society can be studied in the same way as the natural sciences, and that sociology can be used to predict social behaviours. As positivists prefer objectivity, they tend to select methods that will provide researchers with quantitative data that can be analysed and trends established and predictions made. As they view the scientific method as key, they use both lab and field experiments in their research. Both of these methods can provide causal relationships between factors, although to differing degrees based upon the control over variables. Lab experiments have more control, while field experiments are more open to being influenced by external variables. Another method used by positivists is the comparative method. This involves comparing data, usually official statistics, over time, different locations and different social groups to analyse trends and patterns in behaviour. The most notable example of this was Durkheim's research into suicide across Western Europe in the late 19th century. Other methods used by positivists are surveys, but surveys that have a more rigid structure such as closed questionnaires and structured interviews. This is because these methods can be easily quantified and replicated, which gives them more reliability. Finally, positivists would prefer non-participant observations, as they are more detached than participant observations and behaviours can be observed from a distance without researcher interference. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list of methods that positivists use, but these are some of the more common methods. We'll look first at some of the strengths of positivist methods. They can provide a cause and effect relationship between events and behaviours, most likely in lab experiments, or correlations between two factors. This is a feature of scientific research. Positivist methods also produce quantitative data, that is data in numerical form, and this is seen as being more objective than qualitative data because it does not require value judgments to try and analyse it. It's also seen as being more scientific, which means it may be more likely to be generalised to the population, and this gives positivist methods a further advantage. It's preferred by governments and non-governmental organisations, as its large-scale applications means it can be used to help formulate social policies and decision-making. A final strength is that positivist methods are able to be reproduced by other researchers, and results can be checked to ensure they are correct. They're also able to be disproved, something which is referred to as the falsification principle, a key element of scientific research. Positivist methods, though, do have their limitations. They often lack validity. They might demonstrate changes in behaviour, but often don't provide a rationale behind those changes, with judgment being subjective and imposed upon those being studied, which means it may not be representative of the views of all of those being studied. It also focuses too heavily on structural elements of society and can be seen as deterministic. It ignores the agency and free will of individuals to choose how they react to social forces, something that is becoming more relevant in contemporary society. It has very fixed approaches to research that don't always reflect the diversity and fluidity of contemporary society, partly because it searches for a one-size-fits-all theory to understand human behaviour. and it fails to gain an insight into the lives of those being studied. People's attitudes and opinions are often reduced to numerical values, which do not demonstrate the importance of the meanings and motivations of why people do things. Finally, we'll look at some examples of positivist research. The most famous probably is Durkheim's study of suicide, where he compared suicide statistics across European countries and across time and found that suicide was influenced by the level of integration and regulation individuals were subjected to. In both crime and education, we've come across a lot of research based upon positivist ideologies, particularly looking at the rates of offending, achievement, and how factors such as social class, ethnicity, and gender impact on those. And in social attitude surveys, how labour is divided in the home, consumer purchasing habits, social media usage, and of course the census, possibly the largest piece of social research conducted in the UK every 10 years, are all based on positivist ideologies. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on research methods focusing on positivism. Thanks for watching.